Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens continue to mistake regular Joe Schmo customers as employees. Because hey, to Karens, everybody is beneath them and can be ordered around, right? My friends, get ready for a super satisfying episode today because mean, entitled customers are about to get what they deserve. Especially the woman who lies to police about getting assaulted. Guys, subscribe if you haven't because we're diving in. Okay guys, so the first story is from a longtime subscriber named Carol, and it's such a wholesome story that I had to share first. She says, "Hi Fluff, I just want to say that it's my birthday coming up soon on March 14th, turning 66 years young. And it would be so awesome to have this little story featured on your channel. It's an I don't work here moment, kind of. So I worked an office job before retirement last year. A few years back, I was in the dressing room at Macy's, and I heard an obnoxiously rude, and I'm assuming wealthy woman talking down to a salesperson. A few seconds later, the angry woman pops into the dressing room right next to me. Now, clearly she's in a rage, as she was slamming things down and I could hear hangers being thrown on the floor. Her phone then starts to ring and she answers it, saying, "Yeah, I'm still here. No, I didn't find it. You'd never believe the stupid people they hire here. They are just the worst. No class at all. No, I'm not asking for any more help. These people are useless. You should see how some of these employees dress. Yeah, I guess there's only so much that minimum wage gets you." Her and the woman on the phone start snickering and kept talking. Now, hearing that, I felt horrible for the employee. I know for a fact that the employee could hear the snobby woman on the phone, as she didn't even try to keep her voice down. When I left the dressing room, I saw the poor girl standing there just looking really down. I kept my voice low and told her to cheer up, to walk a few steps away and I'll handle the situation for her. I then gave her a wink. Now I stood about 20 feet away from the change rooms just waiting for the rude woman to come out. I waited for about 5 minutes. So the woman comes out and she looks around for a bit, presumably looking for the employee that she was just berating. She then sighs and says, "Ugh, useless." At that, I march right up to the woman and say, "Excuse me, do you work here? You employees are absolutely useless. Why would they hire you for you to hide in the change area? Are you that damn lazy? I've been waiting 5 minutes while you were in there talking on your stupid phone." Now hearing this, the woman appeared quite taken aback and her mouth fell open. I then thrust the blouse that I was holding at her and say, "Here, I need this in a size 6. Hurry up. I don't have time for you to be messing around." The woman ends up stammering, I don't work here." To which I say, "Oh, I'm sorry. You look like an employee by the way you're dressed." Now at that, she glared at me icily and stalked off. Now the best part is, the employee watched the whole thing with a huge smile on her face, and that made my day. I bet the employee was smiling ear to ear for the rest of the day. I know I would have been if a hero suddenly swooped in and dealt a knockout blow to a rude Karen. And hey, happy 66th birthday ahead of time, Carol. And thank you so much for sending me that awesome story with a super satisfying win against that Karen. Steve-O loved it. Today, I went to the store for a few things. Milk, bread, and such like, when I heard the harumphing of an approaching Karen. Now I decided to not look around in case she's targeted someone else, but no such luck, as a sharp jab in the shoulder tells me otherwise. She then says to me, "Hey, why aren't you paying attention? I've been asking you to help me for 5 minutes. I then turn to her and give her the best "oh my goodness" face that I could muster, and then I reply with, "I don't work here." I then give a couple of other faces, as I can see a manager approaching, and realize that the opportunity to do something mean has all but effectively disappeared. Instead, I point to the manager and tell her to speak to him. The manager looks at me and asks, "Is she bothering you too?" Now that tells me that somebody else, and maybe even several other people, have complained about her. Now I nod. Before the Karen can open her mouth, the manager asks her if she can see what I'm wearing, and how my gray shorts and blue t-shirt doesn't match the black trousers and green polo shirt that the staff wear. To which she replies, "Of course I can see. What kind of stupid question is that?" The manager then asked, "So you are definitely not visually impaired?" "Blind," says Karen. "Of course I'm not blind. I can see what he's wearing. I want him fired for not helping me. And why would you ask if I'm blind anyway?" At this, the manager says, "Well, I reckon that if you can't tell he's a customer and clearly not a member of staff, then you're either blind, stupid, or mad." Hearing this, the Karen just goes beetroot red and she storms off. The best manager I've met in ages. I can totally agree with that. I love how the manager totally shuts her down and embarrassed her. With that said though guys, I don't know if that woman was a true Karen. You know why? Because as soon as a true Karen would have heard the words, "You're either blind, stupid, or mad," oh boy, 911 would have had to been called, because she would have started swinging. So a few years ago, I worked for a wonderful Midwest grocery store chain. Hint, we were blue. I had just graduated college and put in my 2 weeks notice because I landed my first big boy job with my shiny new degree. I was front-end supervisor, less glorious than it sounds, and I also had to run the money services counter. There, we sold lottery tickets, handled returns, and other things. This story happened, I kid you not, on my last day. So my shift ended that night at 9 p.m. It was at 8:50 p.m. at the time this took place. Now, a piece of info. We could leave about 7 minutes early because the time clock rounded up the nearest 15 minutes. So if you clocked out at 8:53, it would round it to 9 o'clock. So like I said, it's about 8:50. I literally have 3 minutes until I'm gone forever. The service desk closes at 9. Since I was the only person with access to it working that night, I had already closed it and was about to head out when a grumpy man comes in, and we had this exchange. The grumpy man shouts, "I need a lottery ticket." I tell him, "Sorry sir, the service desk is closed." He says, "It's not 9 p.m. yet." I told him, again, I'm sorry, we didn't have a line, so I went ahead and closed it to assist customers at the checkout lines. He then says to me, "You either get me a lottery ticket or I'm not buying these groceries and you can put them all away." Now, the man had $400 worth of crap in his cart. At this point, I'm done. I don't care anymore. I told him, "Sir, actually, I don't work here." He looks at me confused and says, "Yes, you do. I see you here all the time. Now get me an effing ticket." I then tell him, "Today's the final day of my 2 weeks notice and my shift is officially over right about now. So no, I don't work here. So tonight, you don't get what you want and I'm not putting your stuff away. Have a horrible night." At this point, the look on his face was priceless as I simply walked to the time clock, punched out, and went home. So I guess a lot of people in the comments are saying that OP is a frickin' hero for how he dealt with that guy. And this person says, "To this day, I regret not bitching out the absolute Karen who flipped out on me for daring to place a receipt on the counter before I stapled it to the second one, instead of placing it into her hand." It was 3 minutes before my last shift ended, and I just took it like a good little customer service rep. It's been 5 years, and I still think about that woman and what I wish I said to her. So, some short backstory. I suffer from social anxiety, and the key element to this story is I hate when strangers touch me. Like, I get really uncomfortable and freaked out by it. That and the fact that I did take a couple of self-defense classes a couple of years ago. Not too much, but enough to know how to strike a punch. So this story happens in the local go-to discount store. The dress code is a blue polo with the store's logo in big yellow font on the back and a small logo on the front. It shouldn't be hard to spot when someone's an employee. I was there wearing a classic white t-shirt at the time, not remotely any hue of blue, and no bright yellow name tag on. Anyway, I was casually browsing the store, putting stuff in the cart I was carrying with me. At some point, I decide I really don't want this random item, so naturally, I go put it back because I'm a decent human being that doesn't leave stuff laying randomly. And in comes Karen charging at me. She proceeds to snap her fingers and say something along the lines of, "Hey, you, come over here." Now, like so many others on this post, I do ignore her, thinking that she's not talking to me because why would she? I'm not an employee. Well, it turns out she didn't like this. At one point, I walk away from her, towards the registers, to pay for my goods. As I'm walking away, the woman proceeds to walk up behind me, grab me by the shoulder, and yell something like, "How dare you, blah blah blah." And she spun me around. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not a touchy person, and I'm not saying what she did is necessarily okay, but I acted on pure instinct from what I learned in self-defense. Mid-spin around, I yell, "Back off," as loud as I can, and proceeded to give a mixture of a shove and a punch. Now, the result of the punch was Karen falling flat on her ass and proceeded to yell even more obscure things. Karen says, "You idiot! Did you just punch a paying customer? Are you trying to get fired? I'm getting a manager right now, and I'll have you fired and arrested." Now, luckily a manager was nearby, and I guess he heard the shouting because he came rushing over saying, "What's going on here?" Karen says, "Listen, your stupid employee just ignored me, and then he proceeded to assault me completely unprovoked. I demand you fire him and call the police." At that I say, "Lady, I told you I don't work here. You assaulted me. Of course I'm gonna defend myself. The manager tells her, this man doesn't work here. She says, then why was he putting things back on the shelves? It doesn't matter anyway. You need to call the police. The manager says, I'd be happy to call police for you. I'm sure they'll be here soon. I say to him, look man, I just want to buy my stuff and go home. Karen screams, you are not going anywhere. You punched me. That's assault. You're lucky I'm calling police instead of beating you right here. Now the manager did end up calling police and we stuck around. Two nice gentlemen in uniforms were with us within 10 minutes asking what happened. Karen proceeds to give a sob story about how she was a poor old woman just looking for something and politely asked me, but I ignored her. And when she asked me again, that resulted in me getting upset and punching her, and even kicking her when she was down. I then tell my story, and the whole time she keeps screaming how I'm a filthy liar and she's a poor victim because she's a woman and all sorts of crap. Out of nowhere, the manager tells us that he can put a stop to this he said she said debacle, and he tells us that he can quickly pull up the footage from the CCTV, and the police were more than eager to see it. One of the officers goes with him while the other stayed with us. A few minutes later, the officer comes out saying, well, lady, it looks like you assaulted him, and he simply defended himself. I also don't spot him either punching or kicking you when you were down, so I don't know what you were talking about. This results in arguing that becomes one giant mess of a discussion between her and the officers. It ends with her lunging at one of the officers, and it looks like she was gonna slap him or something, and she was taken back to the station with them. Apparently attempting to assault an officer isn't very popular with the said officer. Now, I have no clue what happened to her, but I was free to go, and I got a free coupon for approximately $35. I saw the manager a couple of times in the store afterward, and apparently the crazy woman has been banned from the store, and he hasn't heard anything new either. Yeah, that's a great idea, Karen. Let's just lunge at an officer and try to attack him when he didn't believe your little sob story. Reading these stories about people getting mistaken as employees by just putting things back on the shelves makes me really want to go to Walmart and try it out for myself. Like, how many items can I put back onto the shelf before someone asks if I work there? So, here's some context for you. I work at a pizza place as a part-time employee. I'm what they call the dough roller. Now, this job has me making pizza dough for the entire day, starting early in the morning. I would come in, prep the store, clean up from last night, nothing special. And here's the kicker. I'm always alone during these shifts. I get here usually around 6 or 7 a.m., and I leave around 1 or 2 p.m. Not bad shifts, but man, it's exhausting. Now here's another note to take in. So the front of my store is mainly windows, with some booths in the front. So people peer in to see if I'll come talk to them, or see what I'm doing. Sometimes I'll get someone in a bad mood, and they'll yell at me asking why we're not open. Now I mainly ignore them, except for this time. So let me rewind the story to the day before this event. So I went to the store after work to pick up some random food stuff that I needed for dinner that I was gonna make. Now I want to note that this was after work, so I'm still in my khaki pants, white pizza place shirt covered in flour, and my hat with the place's logo on the front. Now anyone with common sense would be able to tell that I'm not a produce worker. Anyone except this lady who I'll call Karen. Now I guess Karen looks at me while I'm comparing limes, and she stomps on over and says, hello. She basically yelled it. So I reply with, oh, hello. Now I'm thinking at this point that maybe it's one of my mom's friends that I don't remember or something. I just smiled and wait for her to continue. She was friendly, so I wasn't gonna be mean or anything, but little did I know. The Karen says, can you help me find batteries? I've been here so long looking for someone and I haven't found anybody. I gave her a nod and looked down the aisle. I almost immediately saw the sign that said electronics. Now thinking they'd be there, I point to the sign and say, they're probably down there, aisle 9. At this, she grunts, aren't you gonna take me there? Now this is where I got a bit flustered. I said, why would I do that? Her eyes then widened and she screamed, excuse me? Because it's your job? At this point, I mentally sigh and think, great, now my shopping's gonna take longer. She's looking at me like I had just taken her groceries for myself. I say to her, I helped you know where they are, so what more do you want? And this is where Karen goes crazy. She reaches into her purse and grabs her phone. She then starts to record me saying, you guys see this? This idiot won't even help me. Is this what America's come to? I look around, confused as to what I even said wrong. A crowd had gathered at this point. Everyone's just staring at us, looking rather uncomfortable, and Karen's still pointing her stupid camera in my face, and I look at her and say, look, say what you want, but I want to finish my shopping. I then try to walk away, but Karen uses her cart to stop me. I was literally cornered at this point, trapped next to the lemons and limes, and she says, No, you're not leaving until I speak to your manager. I will not take such disrespect from an idiot like you. I'm getting pissed off at this point. She's acting like I tried to assault her, and her words were getting higher in pitch. So I spoke up and say, Hey, stop yelling at me. I'm just trying to get my stuff and leave, so get your cart out of my way and go bother someone else. I then pushed her cart out of my way and she screamed, Assault! Assault! Did you guys see that? He hit me. Now she's screaming into her phone like a lunatic. I didn't bother saying anything else and just started heading out the store. She kept yelling at me saying stuff like, Stop! You need to stop, I'm calling police. When she said that, I turned around and said, I don't even work here, so I can yell at you all I want. Stop following me. At this point, Karen gasps. It looks like she wants to say more, but I just kept on walking. I paid for my stuff and got out. So the following day, which is today, I'm doing a normal 7 to 2 shift. It's an easy day, barely have anything to do other than cleaning, and it's a good day so far. It's about 9:30 a.m. at this point, so we're not open yet, and guess who I see trying to see if we're open? It's good old Karen. Now I'm assuming she found out where I really worked due to my hat that she caught footage of. As soon as she sees me, she screams, You're the one that assaulted me yesterday. I'm gonna have your job for this. I'm speaking to your manager right now. I sigh and take a moment before answering and say, No. She then looked bewildered and said, Excuse me? I then repeat myself and say, No, the manager's not here right now. We're still closed, so go away. She then screams at me that I have to come with her, demanding to see my manager, as I'm not getting away with this. I then tell her, Look, I don't work at the grocery store, okay? I work here, at the place I'm putting tables and chairs out for. I've never worked at that grocery store, and I will never work there, so leave me alone. It looked like at this point she got the hint, because she just stomped off. And I'm thinking, okay, that was weird. I got everything done at a decent time, and my manager comes in at opening to help me with the kitchen work until I got off shift. And guess who comes back to complain when we did open? If you guys guessed Karen, you get a gold star. My manager greets her as I was making food with the usual, Hello, welcome to Pizza Place, how can I help you? Karen starts off with, Your employee assaulted me on shift yesterday, and I want him fired. Now hearing this, my manager looks at me with confusion because I was with him yesterday doing a morning shift. Plus, there's cameras in this pizza place and he checks them daily. He would have seen the assault and said something if there was one. He then looked back and said, I'm sorry, I think you're mistaken. This employee was working with me the whole shift yesterday, and we didn't see you coming in. Karen then gets flustered, and she says, It was at the grocery store. He was stocking food in the produce section. Why does it matter? Just fire him. He assaulted me. My manager then looks back at me, to Karen, and then back at me and said, Do you have 2 jobs or something? I just shake my head. The manager looks over to her and says, Yeah, I can say for sure he didn't do that. First of all, he doesn't work there. He works here for me. I trust my employees enough to know that your accusations are false and you need to leave. At that, Karen continues raging, saying, I can stay here and shop if I want to. My manager then sighs and goes over to her across the counter. He then ushers to her to leave, and she's not having it. She's resisting as much as she can, still yelling at us that I assaulted her. We ended up putting her on a do not serve list after this. Wow guys, this woman sounds insane. Like I can't believe she found out where OP worked and decided to pay him a visit to try to get him fired. And the funny thing is, somewhere out there's a video of a poor pizza employee getting berated in a grocery store that I wish I could see. I only wish she refused to leave so the story could end up with her getting arrested or something. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today. If you did, hit that like button. And if you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, an entitled Karen accuses OP of faking blindness, and assaults her. It's such a crazy story, so check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.